Thank you for joining me for my seventh episode of my talk. Are you a rebel or a remnant for King James Bible believers? And this is, I'm laying the groundwork for my argument on why I believe the King James Bible is the authoritative word of God, the Bible that we should be using. So I'm talking about here this landmark book that came out in 1964 from a pastor in Florida, Peter Ruckman. And, even if you don't agree or see everything Peter Ruckman says, he did point something out and he exploded the controversy that had been simmering for a long time about, what is the Bible? So Ruckman's introduction to Bible Babel, and you can get this at the, the Bible Baptist bookstore for Pensacola, Florida. But his introduction concluded with Ruckman's take on the controversial verses of Psalm 12, 6, and 7 in the King James Bible, stating they established a doctrine of God's promise to providentially preserve his words. Now, in that, medieval Jewish scholar Aben Ezra is often quoted as an authority who insisted that verse 7 refers to the words, while 18th century Bible commentator, theologian, and pastor John Gill alluded to Ezra's stand on the verse referring to the preservation of the words, but denied it himself. Noteworthy Bible commentator Matthew Henry of the 18th century also held the position that the verse was not referring to the preservation of words, but there are several other pastors who say it is the preservation of words, because another explanation that it's the preservation of the poor is not a protection of the poor is not, it's kind of nonsensical. But in any event, his arguments for the authority of the King James Bible also included his statement that the translators rejected Roman Catholic readings in many verses, that the translators made no effort to uphold Roman Catholic doctrines such as Mary's perpetual virginity, and that at the time of the translation, no minister of any pulpit that believed in the Trinity, the three-part personage of God, denied the deity of Jesus Christ. Dr. Ruckman did not express the most radical version of the King James only believers' belief that foreign language versions should be translated directly from the King James Bible. I would refer you to Peter Heisey's article for the Time for Truth Christian Literature, the quote, the value of making a Bible translation from the King James Holy Bible. Um, so Translating into foreign languages directly from the King James Bible had been a practice in some historical contexts in America, but was hardly a universal position among the late 20th century King James only adherents. Ruckman acknowledged that it was acceptable for missionaries to use foreign language versions that were based in the same Greek text that the authorized version was, even if their publication preceded that version, and even if there were differences in the wording, an allowance he refused to grant to versions newer than the King James. Ruckman made several other points in his polemic against modern Bible versions, which included the KJV translator's use of italics when they inserted words that were not present in a Greek manuscript for the purpose of grammatical sense, or inserting a word found in Hebrew but not present in a Greek text that quoted a Hebrew verse. Ruckman complained that many modern versions did not include italicized words, which to him made the translators of the AV more honest and trustworthy. Another point Ruckman made was the lack of a copyright for the KJV, which is something that modern Bibles carry, in that presumably one would have to get the publisher's permission to copy large parts of their work. The quote, crown copyright, which the King James Bible carries, does not affect its use or reproduction. To Ruckman and his followers, these arguments against modern Bible versions bolstered the AV's credibility. Now we're going to continue next time about this, probably two more times. Then we're going to get to the question that comes to that begs itself is, well, was there a King James only movement before the Bible Babel? It's really surprising when you dig up the history, and I'm talking about generally, not maybe one person here or there. So bear with me. I'll get to my argument and explain myself, which I want to do soon.